Music theory with Microsoft Excel. Modal ranges, this time applying color to the modal ranges. So get ready and some coffee because you ain't never seen rockin' unless you excel at rockin'. And yeah, you need Microsoft Excel if you want to excel at rockin'. You should know that by now. You should know in Excel. If you don't have access to this workbook, that's okay because you could just follow along, possibly build in the part of the worksheet that we're currently working on. If you do have access to this workbook though, 4 tabs down below, including the very colorful fretboard tab, the example tab, in essence the answer key, the prior presentation tab having information from a prior presentation that we will be using in this presentation, the blank tab where we started with a blank worksheet, but did so in a prior course or section, this time adding the layer, the component, the color, and that will help us to revisit the topic, but do so from a different perspective. Let's go to the fretboard to get an idea of our overall objective, remembering we want to be using color as efficiently as possible to learn music theory in general, to create tools to better navigate the fretboard. More specifically, to do that, we don't just splash color on the fretboard. No, we want to assign meaning to the color, absolute meaning for the modal points, as well as meaning for distance. This is an example of our fretboard where we have the low or heavy E string on top. We've broken out each of the frets so that there's a two-toned color system on it, so that we can look at both sides of the color system as well as both sides of our measurement system, one being the points being the notes or the modal points. So that's going to be the left side. And then on the right side, we're going to add the dimension of distance. Now, when we look at distance, we're going to take our collection of 7 notes, and when you're going to need to point to a particular note within those collection of 7 notes so that I can measure the distance from each of those points. That's what this little toggle down here is doing. So currently all of these second ones are tied to the Ionian, in this case the collection of notes around the C, so that's the major scale. I can change it to the Aeolian, so now that's the minor scale. So now the color didn't change on the node, but we have the second side did change. So now we can actually map everything out just by color names. And I'd like to actually learn the name of the colors, and that would be another way that I can communicate what's actually happening. We could describe we're going from here to here, we're going from this color to this color, for example, which is like saying I'm going from A to C. That would be going from red to green, yellow. And then I can say that there's a distance of a 3-note away from the Aeolian node, second modal half step, which from a normal scale degree convention would be called a minor third scale degree. The scale degree is always up by 1 from this number, second modal half step, third scale degree. So that's the idea of why color can be effective. So we need 2 sets of colors, one for the points and then one for the ranges, and the modal point color system we can keep static for the modal points in a similar fashion as the Nashville number system. All right, so if we go to the blank tab over here, this is where we built all of the modal ranges. Now you might be still, if you didn't see the prior course or section, asking what does modal range even mean? And basically the idea here, and I think it's super practical, to say, hey, look, if I have 12 collections of 7 notes, then I can describe all of those collections of 7 notes as a relative position with a modal point, which is in essence the Nashville number system. Nashville number system has a number system that stays constant through all of the changes when we're playing in different modes or playing different chords. So that's very practical and functional thing to do. Now, if we look at the fretboard that way, then I can measure the distance like a normal plumber would, like someone doing woodworking would do. If you're building a house, how are you going to measure distance? Well, tell me where the starting point is and tell me where the ending point is. There's only 7 modal points in the system. We could add to the system to show modal points that are in what I would call the oceans from our planet analogy. But if there's only 7 points that are within our system, then I could say, well, it's going from the Ionian node to the Phrygian node. It's going to the Ionian to the Lydian, or it's going from the Dorian to the Mixolydian. So the question is, what's the distance if I go from node to node? So the modal range then is me just saying, these are the two ends of the range that I'm looking at that I want to measure. What's the most basic form of measure? We can measure with half steps, which is our baseline unit of measure, which we can then use the terminology of intervals, which adds factors to it, including the scale degree, which is kind of a mess. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But that's the general idea. So ideally, if you're trying to memorize, if I went to this fretboard and you think about this fretboard as a map, like you're playing a video game of like an old Zelda video game. I don't know what the current ones are, but you have a map, right? You've got a map. How are you going to memorize the map? Well, I want to look at all of the different points on the map and be able to say, I'm going from this continent to that continent. I'm going from this location to that location. Same thing exactly on the fretboard. Once I have my 7 notes laid out, the distance between the 7 notes are all the same. So what I'd like to say is, what's the distance when I go from this point to that point? What's the distance when I go from the Ionian to the Dorian? What's the distance when I go from the Dorian to the Mixolydian? Any 2 points, I want to kind of know the distance. So that's the most logical way to actually navigate the fretboard. So we'll introduce that term. Once we have that, notice I can color code this entire thing based on the 2-tone color system that we have. Either the points, color the points, or color the distances. And that's what we'll do this time, reanalyzing what we already have, but adding colors so we can look at it anew. So we have the notes here. We have 12 notes in the musical alphabet. We've gave them our note names. The sharps and flats are going to be the lower cases here. And then I combined together the note name and the number. Now, I also want to add, so I'm going to go back to my prior presentation and just adjust it to our normal adjustment. I want to add the shapes, and then I want to add the color system. So then at the end of the day, I want to have an A1 with this little shape, which is going to tell me if it's even or odd in essence, and give me another pattern of recognition. And then I want to add my colors, aligning a permanent color system to it. So to do that, I'm just gonna insert 3 columns and adjust it. So I want 3 columns in between here, put my cursor on the C, drag on over to the E, right click and insert. And then I'm gonna go back on over and I'm just gonna copy these bad doggies, Control C, copy, and paste it right there, boom. Now this one had 3 lines on the header, so I'm just gonna go up top and delete that top bit to move it up. It's out of sync. We're gonna delete and shift it up. Bam. All right. So now on this side, I'm going to double click on it, and then we're going to add to it with an and. I'm going to say and, add the little dot. Boom. All right. So now I'm going to make them all blue to start off with, which is in this color, standard. This is just my normal blue. And then I'm going to copy that down to here. And then on these ones, I like to make this, so I'm going to copy it all the way down. Well, wait a sec. Then this is copying the one above it. That should be good. Let's make these all green. So that's going to be my starting point. We made these this green, I think. Okay, so that's good. And then, so now the modal points, these represent the modal points. Now, if I then apply the formula to the key of C, which is going to be the baseline for our color system typically, then I'll use these colors. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to tie that to here, here, and here. I'm just format painting it across. So that means the Ionian node is going to be green if I'm looking at it from yellow-green. It's going to be yellow-green if I'm looking at it from that perspective, and the note C will be yellow-green all the time. Now, if I play in another key, like the key of A, then if I look at A as the Ionian node, I'm going to make it yellow-green as well. But if I look at it from the perspective of just permanent note points, it'll be red. See, so it's going to be default red by note, but if I measure it by continent, relative position, similar to the nodes, then it's going to be the Ionian green if that was the Ionian. So I'm applying the formula, which is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 and then half to get back home. And then we're just applying out the color system. So for the Dorian, so then we're going to go to the Dorian, and we're going to pull the spring green. I'm going to put that on the Dorian. So the spring green on the Dorian, and then we go another whole step to the Phrygian. I'm going to put the sky blue on the Phrygian, and then we're going to go half step to the Lydian. We'll put the blue here on the Lydian, normal blue, and then we're going to go to the Mixolydian. We'll put the magenta. It's not pink, it's magenta on the Mixolydian, and then the rose will be going to, oh wait, not rose. Then we're on the Aeolian. That's going to be the red up top. So the red is going to be the Aeolian. Let's do it that way. And then we're going to say the yellow is going to be the Locrian. So those are going to be our names there. Okay, so now, and I can apply that over this way as well. So let's do it for the first top bit. So I'm just going to apply it this way, but then I want to do a format painting next time. So I'm going to say, here's our color system for the modes. And so we have, but this, notice that the notes are only for the key of C, undo, but the same color system would apply if I applied the same formula to all of the others, all of the other notes. Okay. I'm having trouble doing two things at the same time here. I can walk and chew gum, but that's because walking and chew gum use different areas, and I'm trying to do something that's like using the same area. Let's make this just like a let's make it clear. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to format paint these, but I want to use conditional formatting, because I want to be able to grab this and put it over here. So whenever I see a 1, I don't want to have to color code it manually. I want it to color code automatically when I do the format painter. Similarly here. So this is going to be tedious to do the format painting this way, but it'll be easier in the long run. Let me show you what I mean, because you might not believe me, but you should believe me by now, because I have been telling you the way it is for a long time, and I feel like you should trust me on this one, but that's okay. I will show you. If you don't trust me, I will show you I'm right. I'm gonna say, let's copy this, and we'll put these over here so I can grab them in another worksheet. And then here, and then we're gonna say this one, and then I'm just gonna grab the red and the yellow. All right. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, we'll do it one at a time. So I'm going to select just the numbers, and I'm going to say if the number, I'm going to select all of them, not just one. Conditional formatting, practicing our conditional formatting. I could say if it equals, but I'm going to say, I should probably say equals, it'd be better, but does it matter to say contained? Equal would be better, because it's always, let's say equals. If it equals 1, and maybe I should just type it in there, that'll be easier to see. I'll hard code it. If it equals 1, then we want you to be fill color, more colors, and here's the tedium of the conditional formatting. So here we go again, but it's going to be, I've got it down to a system now. So it's not tedious. It is still tedious, okay? But it's better than it was. Like, you can get better at it. I still think Excel is not putting its best foot forward with this one. It's putting its ugly, dirty foot forward. Maybe it's its best foot, but it needs to clean it off. Okay. If this is its best foot, it's still an unwashed foot. It needs to be washed to put the best foot forward. Okay, so then we're gonna... And then this is conditional formatting equal to 4 and ba-boom, 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 ba-bam, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-bam. And the magenta, ba-boom, magenta for the Mixolydian. That's going to be our standard for Mixolydian is a 5. And dropping it down, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Magenta, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Red for the Aeolian, which is the 6th mode. Aeolian, ba-boom, ba-boom. The red, dropping it down, do, 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 red, bam, dome, ba-ba. And then yellow is the Locrian, crazy yellow. Crazy yellow. All right, it's going to be 7. Okay, 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 okay. Whew. All right, let's do the same thing now. Let me just show you why I can do that now. Now I can grab any of these, format paint, and so like the modal ranges by number are these two. So I can just format paint the whole thing, and the one represents the Ionian yellow-green, and the other side, this goes from the Ionian to the Dorian spring green to the what did I do? Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian sky blue, Lydian blue, Mixolydian, magenta, Aeolian red, and Locrian yellow. And now, so I want to do the same thing for these ones too. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Now I could copy this. I'm going to grab this and format paint it over here. But now they don't work because these don't have the one. But now I can go drop down and manage the formatting and say, and just fix it because they're all lined up now. So now you just got to go into each one of them and say, that is no longer a 1. It needs to be an I. And then boom, apply it. It didn't work. What's your problem, man? It needs to be an I. Okay. Apply. There it goes. Okay. And then this one needs to be a D. And then okay. And apply. Boom. And this one needs to be a P. And then okay. And apply. Boom. And this one needs to be a Y for Lydian, and then okay, and apply, boom. And this one needs to be an X for Mixolydian, okay, apply, boom. This one needs to be an let me see, this one needs to be an A, okay, apply, boom. And then this one needs to be an N. Why do some of them have equals and some don't? I don't know. I think I tried to put a formula in there or something. So there they are though. And that's all you need to do. So now I can see this. So here's my modal ranges. Now, if we systematically break out all of the modal ranges from the Ionian's perspective, we're going to say it's going to be 7 ones, which are the I's, and then I can compare that. If there's 7 continents on the fretboard, then I can say, I'm going to say from the Ionian to each of the continents. I can go from the Ionian 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, or 1, 7. And if I look at it from a color perspective, I can put it over here, same thing. Let's color this, format paint, and put it right there. So I can either go from the Ionian continent, I'm thinking of them as land masses, Ionian continent to Ionian continent on my Zelda map. Or I can go from the Ionian continent to the Dorian continent, or from the Ionian continent to the Phrygian continent, or Ionian to Lydian. I want to know the distance for each of those, which we're only talking about a circle going around a track. Therefore, I can only go clockwise or counterclockwise. And so it's pretty easy to kind of figure out. So all I need is distance and direction, right? So if I look at it by color, then what are the color systems I can go to? If I look at color from an absolute color system, I can go to yellow green to yellow green. I can go from the yellow green continent. All I know about the continents is the color of the continent, right? This continent's yellow green continent, and I could stay on the yellow green, and then I go from the yellow green continent to the spring green continent, or I can go to the yellow green continent to the sky blue continent, or the yellow green continent to the blue continent, the yellow green continent to the magenta continent, the yellow green continent to the red continent, yellow green continent to the orange continent. Okay, so now what's the distance? Here's the note distance. So now I need my other thing here that shows all the distances, because it's going to have a different color setup, a different 12-step color set. So let's go to the prior ones again. We did our distance thing over here. So we did this last time. So this is the distances and the local distances, and then we can go an octave up or down. So let's see how many, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. So let's put some room here. I'm going to put my cursor on the O. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go 6 out. Insert and they're going to be all skinny, but I'll make them less skinny. That's too skinny. Dang, cells are starving themselves, man. Eat some food. Let's copy these. I'm going to copy from the skinny to the skinny, and I'm going to paste it on the skinny. Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now I lost it. Copy. Paste it on the skinny. Boom. All right, and then now I have one too many skinnies. So I'm going to delete this one, right click and delete. Okay. So now I've got to do the same thing if I want to copy this all the way across. And notice I've got note distances, the local distance going clockwise, and then I've got counterclockwise distances. Now I could do this, I could color this two ways. I could say, well, I'm going to color all of them for the local distance, this range. Or I can color the counterclockwise distances for the octave down that they are here. So I can use the same color system, but they're going to be it'd be an octave lower. So I'll do that just to show you how, well, I don't know which would, let's do that so I could show you that. That means I'm going to have to do a lot of conditional formatting to do that, because I have to do 24 conditional formattings, which is a tedious thing. So you might want to, I might fast forward it, but I'll go through it just to show you the process here. So how could I do that as easy as possible? Now, like if I'm going to use an absolute system, then it doesn't matter where I start. But if I said I wanted it to contain a particular number, it would be easier to go from 0 up and then back this way so that it's in the proper order. Otherwise, I'm going to have two cells that contain a 1. This one has a -1. This one has a positive 1. And if I do it this way, going this way, and then these, it'll be in the proper order so that they'll turn out right. But I'm going to do absolute ones, so it's not going to be a problem. So let me do this again. Let's do this again. I'm going to copy just this bit. I need from here 12 down to here, and then copy and then paste it. Just 1, 2, paste it. I can just paste the whole thing. It should be good. And then I'll make it skinnier. I don't think I need this bit. Delete that. Get out of here. And then, okay, so there we go. So let's start up top. So I need to select, I'm going to select then this range. Here's the number. I want to color code that with conditional formatting so I can apply it all at the same time. All right. So I'm just going to grab these. Here's the tedium. We'll start here. Conditional formatting. Boom. I'm going to say it equals, and then I'll just type it in there, hard code it, -12. Should I hard code it? Yeah, let's hard code it. -12. Dropping it down. Boom. Bam. Boom. Bop. Dig. And so that's going to be crimson. No, that's going to be orange flame. Orange flame. That's right. Okay, and then we're going to go, okay, so the next one is going to be -11. So remember, if I go -11, it would be 11 plus 12. The local distance would be like 1 going forward. So it's going to be like, so it's going to be, the local distance would be amber gold. This one is going to be amber gold, a shade darker. Okay, so we'll hit the drop down. It's going to be equal to -11, dropping it down. Boom, 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 bam, boom, boom. Amber gold -11, which is equivalent to 1 clockwise amber gold. And then we're going to the next one, -10, which would be clockwise distance of 2 chartreuse yellow, octave or shade lower. It's going to be equal to -10, and then dropping it down. Boom, bam, boosh, spam, boom, boom, boom. Okay, otra vez, -9, which would be 3 forward. Lime spike, we'll just call it lime. Let's break it, make it easy here. Lime, it's just lime. The spike is weird. Let's not get weird on it, okay? Let's keep it, we're trying to keep people comfortable. All these people that are telling me that they need a safe space are the ones that are making people uncomfortable, I feel like. The safe space is the most uncomfortable of the spaces because they're using weird words. Okay, I'm gonna say this is gonna be green 4. We'll just call it mint. We'll remove the blaze, call it mint. You can say mint blaze if you want. All right, I'm not gonna stop you. It's a free country, but I'm just gonna say mint, and then we'll say this is gonna be equal to -7. Hit the drop down, and this is gonna be more colors. Boom. And then that's going to be then aqua. Let's just call it just aqua because mint is up here. So mint, and this is aqua. Otherwise, you have 2 mints. That doesn't seem very good. Equal to -6. -6 has a local distance of 6, clockwise and counterclockwise. We're going to say that that has a color of electric sky. We'll just electric sky. Okay, I guess you have to have sky there. Otherwise, electric doesn't seem like it would be that color. I'm not sure that's the best name for that one. I'm gonna... ChatGTP said it was. What, do you think you're smarter than chat? You think you're smarter than chat? I'm not saying I'm smarter than chat. I'm just saying chat's not always right. Chat's not always right. I'm gonna... Let's say this is going to be -4. This is ultraviolet. We'll just keep it ultraviolet. I don't need grape on it. That's redundant. Redundant, duh. Duh, it's redundant. And then hit the drop down on this one. This one is going to be -3, which is going to be orchid. Is that orchid? Not orchard. It's orchid. I don't even know what that means. It means that color. It means the... What do you mean you don't know what it means? It means color 730099. It means color number 730099, obviously. -2 has a clockwise distance of 10. And this one is going to be... wait a sec. This was the fuchsia. Fuchsia. And then finally, we're not done yet though. This is only one round. All right, this is gonna be Crimson Punch. There's gotta be an easier way. There's not an easier way. I've done this a bunch of times. This is how Excel does it. There's not an easier way, but once we do this, then it'll be easy to just map it onto the whole worksheet at one time. You'll see. It'll be worth it. You'll see. Just bear with me. Okay. It's a lot to bear. It's a big bear that we're bearing with. It's a big bear taking up all the space. Big bad bears taking up all the space. I'm sick of bearing with you. I'm sick of bearing with you. Need a smaller bear. If I'm going to be bearing with someone, they need to have a smaller bear. All right. So then, distance of 2 is chartreuse. A distance of 3 is going to be equal to 3 is going to be distance of 3, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. That's going to be, once again, the lime. A distance of 4 is going to be, ba-boom, equal to 4, dropping it down. Boom, 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 boom. That's going to be the mint. And a distance of 5 is going to be the aqua. 5 is aqua. 5 aqua. Boom, boom, bam, boom, bang, bada, boom, bam, boom. And 6 is electric sky. Electric sky, dude. And then equals 6. Drop it down. Boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, bam, boom. 7 is deep azure. We'll just call it azure. It's going to be equal to 7. Blue, no, it's azure. What are you, an uncolor cultured person? It's like saying a wine tastes like red wine without saying that it has the hint of the undertones, kind of palate, uncivilized palate, for crying out loud. Oh, what happened to that one? Ultraviolet. I want to say something happened to this one. This should be 8. 8. Okay. And then 9 is orchid again. So we're almost there. Equals 9. Dropping it down. And that's going to be boom, 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 bam, orchid. 10. Fuchsia. It's pink. No. Pink. No. Fuchsia. All right. All right. Is there a difference? Yeah, there's a difference. Fuchsia is number FF00B7. That's how you... 11 is going to be this one, and that's Crimson Punch. Okay. So now that I have that, then I could just grab any of these and pull that on over to our distance thing over here. So I have to have the note distance. Boom. So there it is. So going from eye to eye is a distance of orange flame, meaning it doesn't go anywhere. And then I to D, continent I to D, or yellow green to Spring Green continent has a distance of a note distance of chartreuse, and going from the Ionian continent to the Phrygian continent has a color distance of mint color distance, and going from the yellow-blue continent to the blue continent has a distance of electric sky. Okay, makes perfect sense. All right, so then we're going to put this over here. This is the negative distance, because this would be the counterclockwise distance, which would get me to the same spot from a clock standpoint, but from a note number line, it would be different, right? So I can either stay in the same spot, or I can go -12. I'm going to say if I go counterclockwise, or I could go 2 forward, or I can go 10 backwards. All right, that's the idea. Okay, but what about these? Now we've got modal half steps. That's another distance term, and I have to use something different with modal half steps because they're kind of ambiguous, because remember, the modal half steps could have 1 or 2 distance. It could be a half step or a whole step. So let's do a color system for kind of this modal half steps, where what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I'm going to ask ChatGPT to just give me 7 shades of gray. So I'm going to say the modal half steps will be shades of gray. So I'm going to then say, all right, so that's going to be, let's add 1, 2, 3, right click, insert. And then I'm going to format paint like this one onto those cells. And then let's make these larger. Let's make these larger. All right. And so then I'm going to pull in, this is going to be my system. I'm going to say, this is going to be modal half steps, which we can call MHS, modal half steps. Now again, I'm making up terms. You're going to say, dude, you're making up terms. I know, but that's because these should be terms that are out there, and no one has clarified them. And so I'm the one that has to do it. I'm going to tell you that this is how it should be. Okay? If people tell you otherwise, it's because they don't know what they're talking about. This should be equal to this minus 1. So I'm gonna have it going forwards and backwards, because it goes around in a circle. So this time I'm gonna ask Chat to give me 7 shades of gray, and this is what Chat gives me: 7 shades of gray. What are you writing? Are you writing a novel now? Yeah, I'm writing a novel. 7 shades of gray. There they are. Okay. And then so now, and then they repeat this way. So because it's going to go around in a circle. So I'm not going to create a 2-toned color system like we did over here. I'm just going to say we have the same colors whether we go clockwise or counterclockwise, because we don't have too many shades of gray that we can deal with. So we'll just keep it the same for our modal distances, clockwise or counterclockwise, without taking into consideration octaves. All right. So now then, what I want to do is select all of these, and then pick up my shades, these color systems, to apply the shades of gray. So once again, I can just easily map them onto the system all the way across. Okay, so that means I'm gonna have to do this again one more time. Are you kidding me? Okay, no. We're gonna put this over here, the 7 shades of gray. We'll copy the whole thing, and then say, paste it. Okay. So let's just, now we're going to select these and say condition, and then -6 is where we'll start. -6. All right. There's not too many. Oh, wait a sec. This is not right. I'm going to copy this, paste just values. Okay. Copy. And then let's conditional format this bad doggy. If it's equal to -6, then drop it down, boom, boom. It needs to be that kind of gray, which you can't see because it's highlighted, but see, there's the gray. And then over here, I'm gonna say, okay, if it's -5, then we're gonna say it's gonna be equal to -5, drop it down, boom, 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 that shade of gray, that shade of gray. I feel like the -6 didn't do anything. Yeah, it did. And then the 4, so we'll get the drop down. If it's -4, then what you're gonna do, Excel, this is what you do if it's -4. It's gotta be that shade of gray, okay? And then if it's -3, drop it down equal to -3. Then what you do is you make it that shade of gray. But if it's -2 and not -3, then if it's -2, then it needs to be a different shade of gray. Then it needs to be that shade of gray. But if it's -1, we need a distinct shade of gray, -1, so that I can differentiate it. Needs to be that shade of gray. Okay? But if it doesn't go anywhere, then it's going to be equal to, if it's 0, in other words, that's what I mean by that, then it needs to be that shade of gray. All right, and then we repeat this for the forward distance, clockwise distances. So I'm just going to copy another rule. Now you can't really see the shades of gray because when I copy them, let's format the cells and get rid of the color so I can see them when I highlight them because it annoys me. Okay. So then here, if it's a 1, we go 1 modal half step forward. If it's equal to 1 clockwise distance, then once again, that's going to be our lightest or second to lightest shade of gray, as opposed to not going anywhere. Now, why is this one, the 0, if I don't go anywhere, is a darker shade? Because I started at 1. I should have started at 0. Oh. The whole thing is off. It's no. Okay, I'm going to undo. You have messed up the whole thing. The CCC color needs to be at 0. It should be going from 0 to 6, not 7 from a distance standpoint. There is no 7 from a distance. We're going to start at 0. Oh, man. Okay. And then if I go back 1, that's going to be this one. Okay. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to paste it, just the values this time. All right. So if it's, okay. This is for realsies this time. This is for realsies. If we go -6, if I go -6, dropping it down equals -6, then it's going to be that gray. But if I go -5, then it's going to be negative 5 is going to be that gray. Okay. But if it's negative 4, drop it down equal to negative 4. It's going to be that gray. Okay, but then if it's negative 3, counterclockwise distance, negative 3, it's going to be that gray. If it, okay, hold on. If it's negative 2 equal to 2, it's equal to 2. Not 2, it's equal to 2. Equals to 2? That's 22. No, it's equal to 2. Equal to 2. Drop it down. Equal to, on, I messed it up. It should have been negative 2. Manage rules. This needs to be negative 2. Negative 2. There we go. Alright, and then this is going to be negative 1 equal to negative 1. The negative is important. I feel like I'm back in algebra class, skipping a negative or something. Why doesn't it work? Why doesn't it work? Oh, I've got like 5 negative signs you didn't put in there. Idiot. I'm gonna... Alright, there's the 0. And then now let's go for the clockwise distance. Clockwise distance of 1. Clockwise distance of 1. Boom. Alright. Clockwise distance. The clock is wise if you go clockwise. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense because it's designed to go clockwise. That's why you go clockwise, otherwise you're going to get the wrong answer because the clock is not wise if it goes backwards. What happened here now? Try this again. This one is C, 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 C. And then if I go forward 1, it's going to be 1 is going to be that, right? And then if I go forward 2, it's going to be 2. It's going to be that. Okay. Got to get serious here. This is ridiculous. If I go 3, it's going to be that. And if I go 4, it's going to be 4 is that. Boom. 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 5. If I go clockwise 5, then... wait, that's not a 5. Then... oh, almost there. Don't mess up now. Don't mess it up now. You almost have it this time. I have it this time. No one's getting in my way. Ain't no one holding me back unless they giving me back a massage. That's right. And even if they're giving me back a massage, you best stop once the knots are worked out. Why? Because no one's holding me back. All right. I think I have it now. Let's make this black and white. And maybe we can center across here. Alignment. We'll center across that. Across the divide. Format paint that here. Format paint that here. Okay. So now let's grab this one. And we have the modal distances. So the modal half steps, boom. And then the modal half steps here, boom. All right, now that was very tedious work, but now I think I can copy this all the way across, right? So I can just grab this whole thing and just say format paint that right there, bam. So if I'm on the Dorian, what does this whole color thing mean? This is looking crazy. That just means that we're going from the continent of the spring green, which is the Dorian continent, to the spring green. So here it's going from spring green, Dorian to Dorian. It's going spring green to sky blue, Dorian to Phrygian, spring green continent to the blue continent, which is Dorian to Lydian, Dorian to Mixolydian, which is spring green to magenta, Dorian to Aeolian, spring green to red, Dorian to Locrian, spring green to yellow, Dorian to Ionia, spring green to yellow. And so if I go from D to D, we have no distance, so we're close to a modal half step of just basically white. If I go from D to P, we have a modal half step. This doesn't give us the half steps in notes, it gives us the modal half steps, meaning I've only gone one Nashville number system up from 2 to 3. That's going to be the next shade up of yellow. So shade 2 of gray. And then we're going from D to Y is going to be Dorian to Lydian is 2 modal half steps up, shade 3 of gray. And then we're going from D to X, Dorian to Mixolydian is 3 modal half steps up, or let's say the third shade of gray. This is the 0th shade of gray, 1 shade of gray, 2 shade of gray, 3 shade of gray, 4 shade of gray, 5 shade of gray, 6 shade of gray. You can go 6 modal half steps up, from the 0 point to get you to the Ionian. So that makes sense, right? Right. And so then on the note half steps, if we look at note half steps, going from Dorian to Dorian is going to be a note distance that's not red because we're using a different color system for the distance. It's going to be, it's going to be orange flame. Let's just call it flame. We'll call that flame. And then this is going to be from Dorian to Phrygian. I think that's chartreuse. And then when we go with Dorian to Lydian, we're going 3 notes, which is a distance of lime. And then when we go from Dorian to Mixolydian, that's going to be a 5-note distance, which is aqua. When we go from Dorian to Aeolian, it's a 7-note distance, which is azure, which is a blue, obviously, and so on. And then we have the negative distances, meaning if we go counterclockwise, we'd get to this 7. Why aren't these two? I would think that would be the same because this should still be 0, I think. I think this bit needs to be 0, and that would be right. So 0, -6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I can go 1 forward or 6 backwards to end up at the same first shade of gray, second shade of gray. I'm using the same shades to go clockwise and counterclockwise. Here, however, the note half steps, I can go 12 backwards, or here I can go 10 counterclockwise, getting to the same point if it was a clock as going 2 clockwise. So it's going to be the same distance of chartreuse, but this one is a shade darker, taking into perspective here the idea of an octave. All right, so again, I know it looks crazy, but there is meaning, there's layers of meaning on it. And so if you map it, if you try to think of it from all this, so if I just paint this over here, now we have the same idea. We're going from now sky blue Phrygian continent to sky blue Phrygian continent, which has a 0 modal half step, which has a note half step of 0, which is going to be flame. It's got a modal half step in the counterclockwise direction. I think this should just be 0 of 0 to start, or it could be -7, which would, yeah, and then 12. I'll keep that, and then it's got a note half step distance negative of here. So then if I go to from 3 to 4, that's Phrygian to Lydian, sky blue to blue, which has the first shade of gray modal half step forwards or clockwise, which would be 1 note half step, which would be amber gold. And it's got a negative then. If I go 1 modal half step forward, I could go 6 modal half steps backwards, which would still be the first shade of gray. And then we have the 11 half steps backwards, which would be equivalent to 1 half step forwards, because there's only 12, but it's going to be a shade darker here because we're an octave lower. I can go from Phrygian to Mixolydian, sky blue to magenta. That would be 2 shades of gray, or 2 modal half steps forward, would have a distance of 3, which I think is lime, and we could go in the negative direction, right? So then let's copy this over here, go to the Lydian, copy it to Lydian. So now we're going from the continent of blue to blue, which is Lydian to Lydian, right? If I go down here, we would go from Lydian to the from the Lydian to Locrian, which is going to be going from the blue continent to the yellow continent, 3 shades of gray up, meaning modal half steps up. The note half steps are going to be 6 note half steps, which is electric sky color. And if I went counterclockwise, would be -4 and 6, right? So let's copy this over here. So we'll say boom to here. If I'm on Mixolydian, for example, and I went down here, we'd say we're going from 5 to 3, which is Mixolydian, to Phrygian, which is magenta, to sky blue, and that means we've gone 5 shades of gray up with zeros at the 0 shade of gray, right? And then we have the distance in note half steps, which is going to be 9 half steps, which is orchid, and we could then go modal half steps backwards 2, note half steps backwards 3. So let's copy that on over again to the Aeolian. So if I was on the Aeolian and we do the last one here, we're going from 6 to 5. That's Aeolian to Mixolydian. It's going to be 6 shades of gray up, or modal half steps up from the Aeolian to get to the continent of Mixolydian. It has note half steps of 10. 10 note half steps is fuchsia distance. And it has a modal half steps counterclockwise of -1 to get there, and note half steps of -2. Clockwise 10, counterclockwise -2. And then finally, Crazy Locrian. Copy that, paint it. So we're going from Crazy Locrian, 7 to 1, for example, would be going from Locrian to Ionian. That would be going from the yellow continent to the yellow-green continent, which would be 1 modal half step up, or 1 shade of gray up, which would have a note half step distance of 1, which would be amber gold. -6 would be the equivalent of the first shade of gray modal half steps, because we'd be going around modal half step circle of 7. And then we have the note half steps could be going counterclockwise of 11, which would still be amber gold, but it would be a shade lighter or darker. Whew. So that's going to be, see how, so that many layers of meaning. If you look at it, it's not just some gaudy thing. It's not just some gaudy thing. It has meaning woven through it at every level. At every level.